What's going on YouTube? So in the US market, there are a lot of family three-rows available, and one of the most prominent ones has long been the Nissan Pathfinder. Now today we're standing next to the refreshed 2026 example, and this includes some new design, new technology, and new features that I think could be a game changer for those of you looking for one of these. But we want to know, how does this stand up against the competition, including the also refreshed 2026 Honda Pilot? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's jump right in with the exterior design. I think you might notice right from the start that we have some pretty big changes up here in the front. So what Nissan has done is kind of taken their signature design language, added the most modern touches to it, and also made it a little bit bolder for 2026. You can see the grille now kind of expands out a little bit wider than it did before, and the overall shape has been tweaked. So right in the center, you have the newest Nissan logo, nice and big. We have the full gloss black finish on board, except we have a gray accent that goes right through here, and that does match with the Nissan logo. Now down at the bottom, we also have that same gray finish for the lower fascia. This is going to be the platinum trim level. You'll continue to have a lot of different trim selections, which will have some minor tweaks to the front end design. And then finally, we have these new accent pieces. This is actually not part of the light itself. It's just an accent that matches with that. Now, speaking of the lights, let's talk about these. We have a LED headlight arrangement standard on all models. These are reflector LEDs, and then our daytime running light and turn signal indicator is up here above. You have a little bit of this new accent down here. This again is just kind of making the vehicle look a little bit wider than it did last year, but down here on the bottom part you won't find any fog lights. Now moving on to the wheels, you have some updated designs for 2026. This right here, like I said, is the platinum grade, and we have an updated design. It's the contrast finish with a multi-spoke. I think it looks very premium. This is a 20-inch alloy. The base size is 18 inches. We have some cladding that goes around the wheel arches and down here on the lower fascia. And then as far as our mirrors are concerned, we've got the gloss black finish on board. Your high-end examples will add power folding in addition to the standard blind spot monitoring and heating.
Now at the side of the Pathfinder, overall vehicle length is 197.7 inches, which is unchanged over what it was previously. But in terms of design, there are a few new elements. So as you will see, we have a little bit of chrome down here on the bottom part of our window surrounds. We also do have the available two-tone roof, which I'm really happy is sticking around. I do definitely like the two-tone availability because some of the options in the segment, namely things like that Honda Pilot, do not give you that two-tone ability. And also new for 2026, you will have the black roof rails here on the platinum models. Now let's head around to the rear and see what you're going to have back here when it comes to the Pathfinder. Now Nissan has changed a few little elements here for the rear design of the Pathfinder, but overall it's a very classy and elegant design, so not much has changed. So let's talk about some of those individual elements. We have a spoiler up here at the top. We also have a rear window wiper. Our Nissan branding is going through the center section, and we have this black piece that intersects between the taillights. We have Pathfinder branding prominently across the rear, and overall it does have a very handsome design. Now let's talk about the lighting itself. We do have a partially LED taillight, so as you can see, all the accenting is LED. We have an LED brake light. However, it does appear like we're keeping the incandescent reverse light and incandescent turn signal indicator. That's something that we actually see in the front as well, so I'm a little disappointed they didn't update it to give the full LED elements, especially here on the platinum grade. But dropping down, we have kind of a gray finish here. Also, you'll notice this tow hitch. That's because the Pathfinder keeps the V6. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but it tows 6,000 pounds. Now this is a family SUV after all, so of course you need most of your safety systems as standard equipment. Nissan knows that and is including the vast majority of active safety features as standard. Now as you move up the trim structure, you get all of the features, and you also have some exclusive features for the higher end examples. But guys, there's some new tech to talk about on the inside in addition to nice luxury. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. You'll continue to have a smart entry system as standard equipment on all grades of the Pathfinder. And let's check out the interior. So as you can see right from the start, especially here on the Platinum, it's got a very upscale design. And we'll begin by talking about the seats themselves. So for 2026, you start with cloth seating, you move to a leatherette trim in the center trims, and then when you get to the top model, that's where you're going to get this genuine semi-aniline leather. That's one of the highest grades of leather and does stand out against a lot of the competition. It's very soft and supple. You can see we've got this beautiful stitch detail that runs through the center section with perforation. We have kind of a cream color accent in addition to the brown. I think these look very upscale, very Infiniti-like as a matter of fact. Now the seats themselves are of course power adjusting. You have memory seats as well. And let's climb inside so we can look around at the other changes to the cabin materials. So starting with our door trim, you can see that we've got a full leatherette covering on this entire upper part with a color contrast stitching, and then a black leather for the entire armrest portion and some piano black accenting. As you move up here to the vent, I'm noticing a new detail for 2026. Nissan is accenting this section with a faux wood, at least here on the Platinum trim. Now the upper dash is a soft touch plastic. All the center section has more of that matching brown leatherette all through here and all through here with a very nice padding. Everything in here feels very solid, and I think this does look more upscale than some of the rivals in their top trims for sure. Now, of course, we have a push-button start as well, located right there. We're today at an auto show, so I'm not going to be able to fire up absolutely everything, but we can still get into some details. One of the things I want to actually mention straight from the jump here is the gauge cluster. So this is a full digital gauge cluster. It's 12.3 inches. This is now standard on the SL trim level now, in addition to the Platinum, so that's giving a higher degree of standard equipment for 2026. Furthermore, we have an available head-up display. As we move back to the steering wheel, we have an updated Nissan design. It's flat bottom through here, and it has a very boxy look to the center section. The buttons themselves are pretty much the same, and it has a leatherette wrapping. One feature that does stand out against some of the competition as well is the fact that we have power adjustment on our top-end examples, and of course you have steering wheel heating on several of the trims. Now, as far as the interior storage, Nissan has tweaked this area just a little bit. We'll start under the center console. As you can see, nice and large. This is a very deep storage area. We have a felt lining down there at the bottom, and this is going to hold a lot of donuts, which we look forward to testing out later on when we get one back home to Kentucky. Now you have your two cup holders right there, a little slot, and then we have a area here with a wireless phone charging pad. Now this is something I want to highlight because you'll notice that little bump right there. This is actually the very first vehicle in North America, according to Nissan, with Qi 2 wireless charging. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that now it charges a lot faster. It moves from 5 watts to 15 watts. It also has MagSafe, so you stick your phone on there and it actually latches on magnetically to make sure it has a great connection and gives you the maximum amount of charge without sliding around while you are driving. Now, then we're not done with the storage quite yet, though, because we have a large center pass-through, and you also have a passenger storage shelf. Those things are made available by the electronic shifter. This remains the same for 2026. When you press forward and go into reverse, you'll have a 360-degree camera system on your rock, creek, and above. And then behind that, you have your electronic parking brake with your brake hold and your very prominent drive mode controller. Now, in the center section, Nissan hasn't messed with the physical control, so everything here is just going to be very analog, which I know a lot of people are appreciating these days, including 3-zone automatic climate control right through there. We also have heated and ventilated seats. The heated seats start on the SV trim level, so they're available on everything but the base model. Right here in the center, we have our volume knob for the audio system. The upper end examples come with a Bose 13 speaker sound system, and you can see that branding right there. We do anticipate that will be pretty good and remain the same as it was in 2025 model year. But let's talk about this right here. So this is a big change for 2026 that a lot of people are going to be looking for. Just like with the 26 Honda Pilot, the 9-inch display is gone and replaced by a standard 12.3-inch display on all models. This is going to have the latest Nissan technology on board, and you'll have things like Google built in, which will give you Google Maps, Google Assistant, things like that natively inside the system, in addition to wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. To accommodate this slightly new shape here, they have also added the Pathfinder branding into this center section, just like we saw with the Nissan Frontier when it got an enlarged display. Finally, for the front of the cabin, we have an auto-dimming rearview mirror with HomeLink universal remotes, and you have a large panoramic sunroof.
Now we need to talk about the rear seats of the Pathfinder. Now for this refreshed model, really nothing is changing in terms of rear seat usability, and this is a pretty practical choice for the segment, so I think that's a pretty good thing. So we're sitting at about 35 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. Now I will point out those numbers are quite a bit smaller than some of the rivals like Honda Pilot, Toyota Grand Highlander, so it's a little disappointing that they haven't improved the overall rear space here in the Pathfinder, but it's still going to be a reasonable amount of space. I'm 5'9" for reference, and this seat is adjusted to Drew's position. We're looking at a decent amount of room, although I don't have time to get out my ruler today because we are here at an auto show on a limited time frame. Now let's talk about overall features that you're going to find back here. Here in the center section, you will find your own climate panel to adjust the temperature. On the Platinum, you're also going to get heated back seats. You have 2 USB ports down below there, and then nothing else on the lower section, so keep in mind you don't have a household outlet. That being said, we do have this really nice center console. This is actually a removable center console. It has 2 cup holders inside, extra storage as well. And this is going to be an available option. You get standard bench seating, but you can option on for captain's chairs with this removable center console. Now, if you look over at the door trim, we do have a really nice one. You'll notice that we have rear window sunshades. They are going to be manual. Leatherette all through the center section, lots of leather on the door trim portion, 2 cup holders, and then 2 more bottle storages down at the bottom. So really quite the practical rear seat here in the Pathfinder. And let's go ahead and check out the third row. In order to get back here, it is relatively easy. You just press this button right here. That's actually going to tilt the seat up and slide it out of the way. Now that, of course, is important because that means you would not have to remove a child seat. You actually see that kind of demonstrated over there with that child seat. And let's go ahead and hop back into the third row and see what the space is like. Now, keep in mind, this is just a refresh, so that does mean that overall space is not going to change over the pre-refresh model. So we're sitting at only about 28 inches of third row legroom and I believe around 35 inches of headroom. So definitely going to be on the tighter side when it comes to space here in the third row. Not nearly as good as a Grand Highlander or a Honda Pilot or the new Hyundai Palisade or Telluride, that's for sure, but it's a usable amount of space. Overall seating capacity is going to be 7 passenger as tested. You can also get 8 passengers since it seats 3 across the rear here. We have 2 cup holders on the sides. We also have vents coming out of the ceiling. But aside from that, we don't have any other features. So I'm going to say that this third row is going to be fit for either the in-laws or just kids. Walking up to the tailgate, a power one is included on the vast majority of models. Platinum will give you the hands-free ability. And let's talk about overall cargo capacity with the Pathfinder. So what we're going to find are some pretty good numbers here. 16 cubic feet behind the third row, 45 behind the second row, and 80 cubic feet as a maximum on the Pathfinder. Now, for those of you familiar with the segment, you may know that that's not quite as spacious as some of the other rivals. Pilot, Hyundai Palisade, Telluride, as well as Grand Highlander will have more cargo capacity by about as much as 20 cubic feet, depending on which model you may be looking at. And speaking of all those other models, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings because we've looked at all of the options in this very competitive segment and ranked them in the 10 most important categories to you all, this SUV shopper. Things like the third row, cargo capacity, interior technology, powertrain choices, and value are all broken down for you so you can see the best options in each of those categories. So definitely take advantage of that at our website, carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, when it comes to the features back here, I will point out you have just a manual folding third row. So, no power ability has been added for 2026 model year, and you also can't fold the second row of seats from the cargo area, so you would have to go up there and do it manually. I wish they had maybe improved the overall functionality of that for this model year, but underneath of the floor you have a ton of extra space, which is really quite nice.
Now, by this point in the video, you're probably wondering what is under the hood of this Pathfinder. Well, We have some good news for those of you who enjoy V6 models. Unlike the Infinity version that shares this platform, that switched to a variable compression 4-cylinder engine, but this keeps the tried and true VQ V6 for 2026. That means we have 284 horsepower from a 3.5 liter V6. You get up to 295 horsepower if you choose the Rock Creek model, which uses premium fuel. Now, of course, there's a lot of rivals in this segment that have also switched to turbo 4-cylinder, so this is something that kind of helps it stand out. Also, the Honda Pilot, though, will keep the V6 as well. Now, this is paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and you also have an available 4-wheel drive system. With 4-wheel drive, this is going to be rated at 23 miles per gallon combined, likely, although we don't have the official 2026 estimates. Those are the 2025 numbers.
Now we've got to talk pricing for the Pathfinder. Nissan has not released official pricing for this model. However, it will be coming to dealers very shortly, so we will get those numbers soon. However, we can just estimate for the time being. The 2025 started at around 36 grand. I would expect that to remain close to about 37,000 as a starting point for 2026. And the Platinum used to start at around 48.6. I'd expect maybe that to start at 49.5 for the 2026 model year. Now, it's worth noting, though, that's a pretty significant price decrease over most of the competition. So this will remain a very good value in the 3-row midsize segment, that's for sure. Now, if you're looking to buy a Nissan Pathfinder or any new vehicle, we encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealer negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. And guys, that's going to wrap up our first look review of the refreshed 2026 Nissan Pathfinder Platinum. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. We'll also be covering this Pathfinder in more detail very soon, so be sure to stay tuned for that. If you're already part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.